Alright. All right, everyone. I think I'm live. I went a few minutes early because I just wanted to make sure that everything worked properly. So I'm going to go ahead and double check something real quickly. I'm going from StreamYard today. This is my first time. So I just want to make sure that everything is working. Looks like I'm live on Facebook as well. If you can see me, I think you have to give StreamYard permission to use your name or use your comments. But I'm going to have my phone here so that I can see the comments from Facebook. So if you see me glancing down periodically, it's either at the phone to see the comments or on my notes. If you're watching from Facebook, can you just pop like hi in the comments? I just want to check to make sure everything is working because I don't see everyone's comments here on StreamYard. Like I said, this is my first time. Hi, Rosanna. So I actually see it here on StreamYard. Okay, so it does pop up. All right. So that's good. We're going to talk a little bit today about betting on you. I know there's a couple people watching. I'm also streaming to YouTube. So I will just check those comments whenever the live is finished. But I think they do pop in here as well. I do see some of the comments. Thank you so much, Roscoe. And that looks like David from Fitness for the Average Joe. It's good to see you guys. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump in. I know that there are going to be people watching from three different platforms, and I'm not able to see all of the comments, but it looks like they actually pop onto StreamYard, which is really good, so that I don't have to, constantly glance back and forth from my phone, etc. So today we're going to be talking about betting on you, and I'm not talking about just the people who've been diagnosed with a chronic illness. I'm also talking about anyone who might be going through a really rough time right now. Maybe you've lost your job because of all of the the madness that occurred over the last few months. Maybe you have been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and I know a few people that are new to the lupus community, and I'm telling you that even, gosh, it's been years since I was diagnosed, and it's been a few years since I've healed my body from those, all of the symptoms that I was experiencing. But every time I hear of somebody getting diagnosed with lupus, it just breaks my heart because I know what I went through, those years and years of trying to figure out what was going on with my body, and then getting a diagnosis and then being told that this was an incurable illness. It was rough. So, but I'm here to tell you that it is possible to heal your body, but your healing is not going to come from going to doctors. Your healing is going to come from you looking deep within to figure out, okay, what happened? Why am I dealing with this illness? And that is the hardest journey that you could ever possibly take, is that journey inward. You go to the doctors, yes, and the doctors will give you a particular prescription and say, here, you need to take this for the rest of your life because you're going to have this illness for the rest of your life. And then you go back a few months later because a new symptom pops up and they say, oh, here, take this medication to help with that symptom, and then come back if you don't feel any better. Then you go back a few months after that, and before you know it, you have a huge Ziploc bag packed with pharmaceuticals, right? Because what's being done is your symptoms are being treated, and no one is really looking at the underlying where the issue began in the first place. So rather than treat the real issue, the that issue is actually just being covered up by treating all of the symptoms, right? I hope that made sense. So, but in order to do that, you have to bet on you. You have to get up one morning and you have to say, look, I want to get healthy, and it looks like all of these trips that I'm making to the doctors is just not cutting it, right? Because all I keep getting is one medication after another, and I don't want to live my life like that. And that's how I was a few years ago. Because, like I said, by the time it was all over, I had, I think, about 15 different medications in a huge Ziploc bag. And I was taking some in the morning, I was taking some at lunch, and I was taking some in the evening. And it gets kind of hard to keep track of all of this stuff that you've got to take, right? But that's what life with chronic illness tends to start out as until you make a decision. I'm going to bet on me. I remember being diagnosed, and the doctor looked at me and said, because things were really bad as far as I was, in my situation, the doctor looked at me and said, you're probably going to be dead by the time you're 45. It seemed like everything that was going against me. And I looked at him point blank and I said, please do not speak any negativity over my life. Thank you very much. And from that day forward, I really, really propelled myself into getting healthy. I didn't do it on my own. I did find teachers. I did find, people who were experts in their fields, like herbalists, and I did do a lot of sound therapy and a host of other modalities. But it got me to a point where, at another doctor appointment, the doctor looked at me and said, it was a rheumatologist, looked at me and said, if I didn't know you better, I'd say that you were misdiagnosed in the first place, because there's no sign of lupus in your body right now. All of your blood work is amazing, but I'm looking at your original blood work where your diagnosis was made, and I can see that it wasn't a misdiagnosis, but I don't know what you did. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, right? So I'm here to tell you that it can happen. Doctors don't, they don't necessarily tell you that you can be healed, because, I mean, let's face it, doctors don't do medicine, they practice medicine. And for every lupus patient, it's completely different, right? So, one lupus patient might go in, or whatever your diagnosis is, and you'll get a particular list of medications to take, and another lupus patient may go in and they might get a completely different list, because there's no two lupus patients are identical. So the doctors are literally doing like a trial and error kind of thing whenever it comes to treating lupus patients, and whatever other autoimmune condition there is that you may possibly have. Because, like I mentioned yesterday in the live stream, lupus loves misery. And when you get diagnosed with lupus, there's all of these other illnesses that tend to piggyback onto the lupus diagnosis, whatever autoimmune condition you might have been diagnosed with, right? But I'm here to tell you that you can be healed. You can get better. Don't take the doctor's word for it that you're going to be taking these medications for the rest of your life. You have to bet on you, and you have to say, no, this is not how my life is going to go. No, I am not going to get up every single morning in pain. No, I am not going to be the mother who looks at her children outside playing and tell them every minute that, I can't come and play ball with you. No, I can't do this with you. No, you're not going to be the dad, because men are not immune to autoimmune conditions. Yes, the men don't necessarily get a lot of shout outs when it comes to lupus, because you hear of so few men actually being diagnosed with lupus. But I know of one guy who has actually died from it. I have lost a lot of friends from lupus. There was one week about 2 years ago where there were 7 people in my community that died from lupus, and it just breaks my heart every time I hear that, because no doctor tells you, it doesn't have to be this way. All right, it really does not have to be this way. So I'm going to stop with that little rant, and so let's get into the little teaching. Today is what I call, or what I like to call, Wisdom Wednesday. where I share a little bit with you about my journey, about what got me here, and how you can also see the results that I've experienced over the years. So, like I said, but I'm not only speaking to people who are sick, because I know that, a lot of you have lost jobs over the last few months, and with this chaotic times that we're in, there's a lot of stress. So if you're dealing with stress or anxiety, that sort of thing, I'm also talking to you, because people with chronic illnesses also experience depression, anxiety, stress, those kind of emotions. All right, so chances are you've been diagnosed, otherwise you probably wouldn't be watching this. So you're either in my YouTube community, or in my lupus community on Facebook, or maybe in the I also have a karate page. It's called Kicking Lupus's Behind through through martial arts, because I started training in the martial arts, I want to say maybe, I think it was back in 2004, 2005. And it wasn't throughout that time I was actually feeling really ill. But it wasn't until much later that I got the diagnosis, and I got several diagnoses before I got the lupus diagnosis. So martial arts was very integral in my I would want to say in my healing. But at the time, there was a point where I had to quit martial arts because I had gotten that sick. But there is a really good ending to that part of the story. So there are people watching from the martial arts community as well. Um, so the idea is to use whatever mess that we might be in and create our message. When I first got diagnosed, I took a nosedive into self-pity, into depression. Like I mentioned earlier, it really took a toll on my identity as a parent, because it's the toughest thing to be trying to parent. And I also had a career. I was a teacher at a local private school, where I was teaching art and sculpture to junior high and high school students. And I was getting up every day. I was always in pain. I was going to work. I was taking my kids to school, and doing my job, coming back, and I was literally crashing at the end of the day. I barely made it through, being able to cook dinner. If I couldn't cook dinner, I had to order in. Or I had other friends who I could call on to actually cook dinner for me and would bring it over, or who I had arranged with, in advance to come and help me out with dinner because I wasn't able to. I've got one. I'm a man. I've been going through this for 11 years. First diagnosis, SLE. I completely understand. A lot of men do go through this, but they don't really get the attention, because it's mostly considered to be lupus is considered to be like a woman's disease, but it's really not. There are men who are out there suffering from lupus as well. So I would, like I was saying, I would have friends who I could call on to cook dinner for me, or to bring dinner over. I even had a restaurant. I had a friend who owned a little restaurant, and he knew my situation at the time, and I could call him and I said, look, this is what we want for dinner. Can you, hook us up? And he always said yes, always said yes. So if I was able to, I would go and pick it up myself, or I would have, someone go and pick it up for me and bring it to me. So, you get to that point where it's hard, but I found ways to kind of, balance life until things got really bad. And I ended up having to start to work part-time. I was getting sicker and sicker. I was taking more medication and more medication. And I was just really getting tired of it. It got to the point where I got so sick I had to quit altogether. So it's a good thing, though, that I did have a lot of money saved up. So I wasn't in a financial bind, and it was actually in my retirement account. So, I didn't qualify for unemployment when I stopped, because the idea was, well, you have all of this money, so that's pretty much what you're going to have to live on. So it was good that I actually had that I could, even though I had to quit working, I wasn't in a financial bind, and I was able to take care of my kids and take care of all of my responsibilities. But It was a morning I got up, and it was just one of those days when I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of the medications. I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of feeling like a lousy parent. I'm just tired of feeling sick and tired. And my kids got into the vehicle with me, and we went to a local herbalist. And that is what really began to turn my life around, was the trip that I made to that local herbalist that morning. And it wasn't just herbs. And I'm not going to be able to get into everything that I really worked with to heal my body, but I'm here to tell you that I had to start betting on me, because none of the doctors were saying, yes, we can heal you. You need to go and see this person. Maybe go see a nutritionist, see what kind of foods you're eating, that maybe you need to take some out, start eating, different kinds of foods. Nobody was telling me this. I had to start doing a bunch of research into different things that may work. So there's a lot of trial and error that went into what I was doing to get to where I am today. Lucky thing for all of you who are watching is you don't have to do all of that trial and error. Yes, it is going to take some work, but I'm here to kind of guide you along to say this could work for you, this may not. But by doing all of the trial and error myself, I can tell you what may or may not work. So instead of spending 8 years trying to figure out or getting yourself better, it may take you 6 months to a year, right? So I'm hoping that that is making a little bit of sense. All right. So the doctor was telling me all of this negative stuff and just kind of laying it down, laying it down. And I told him, look, no, do not speak negativity over my life. Keep in mind, words are very, very powerful things. So whether it's someone telling something to you, or whether it's the story that you're telling yourself, these words are really powerful. And you have to start changing the conversation that you're having with yourself in order to be able to move forward. So that is going to be the first thing, is stop telling yourself that you're ill. Stop claiming your diagnosis. Start saying, I have been diagnosed with, rather than I have blank, blank, blank. So that's the first thing I would tell you to do, is to start changing the conversation, because the minute you start to lay ownership to this particular diagnosis, it goes into your cells and it becomes part of you. You're not your illness. You are not your diagnosis. You are who you are, but it's not, the diagnosis is not part of you. So don't take ownership of this diagnosis. Okay? Whatever your diagnosis may be, whatever situation you might be in, don't take ownership of it. Maybe you've lost your job over the last few months. Your job was not who you are. And you can actually take this time to reinvent yourself. Maybe you end up getting a better job. Maybe you start your own business because of everything that has happened. Because when one door closes, another door opens, right? Sun exposure is terrible for me. Yes, sun exposure was one of my issues as well. And lupus patients are told to avoid sun exposure as much as possible, and to always wear sunscreen when you go out into the sun. That is not an issue for me anymore. I avoided the beach like the plague. There was a time when I couldn't even walk on the sand, because the sand was just so hot, and I would end up with blisters on my feet. Because one of my diagnoses was peripheral or global sensorimotor polyneuropathy, which basically meant that my nervous system was shot. So, just walking on regularly would cause a lot of pain. Walking on the beach would cause blisters. So and I was always dressed with long sleeves. I had a hat on, sitting under an umbrella. So I completely understand what you're going through as far as your diagnosis is concerned. And lupus does take a lot from the people who've been diagnosed with it. I mean, it takes you tend to lose your sense of self, but I'm here to encourage you, don't let your diagnosis take away who you are. You can get better. I have a great rheumatologist, always positive, tried every medication in the book. Yes, I did have a really good rheumatologist. Actually, my very last one was a really good rheumatologist because they looked at everything that I'd been doing and appreciated what I had been doing. One rheumatologist basically told me I needed to stop with all of the herbal stuff because it wasn't going to work, and that I needed to accept my diagnosis. I was not going to accept someone telling me that I was going to be dead by 45. So you have to really take your health into your own hands. Remember that doctors practice medicine. They don't know everything. And a lot of the doctors, when they're in med school, they're not taught nutrition. They're not taught that, sound therapy actually helps. They're not taught in a lot of other modalities. They're taught medicine, and they're taught to practice medicine. When you go to a restaurant, right? Typically the chef is not back there practicing. This is a chef who has gone through school and has left with, the ability to cook really fancy meals, and they go into a restaurant and they cook your meal and they bring it out. It's not because they're back there practicing. Yes, they do have a team, but the difference with doctors is that they really are practicing. That's why we use the term, doctors practice medicine, because what might work for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And they said, well, let's try this medication. If that doesn't work, let's try another medication, because they're practicing and trying to see what's going to work for you. And I found that a lot of the medicines that they put me on, one of the medications that I was put on actually made me gain 25 pounds and did absolutely nothing for me except the weight gain. And when I told the doctor that, the response was, well, let's try this one. And I said, no, I'm tired of being a guinea pig, because, your body is not designed for pharmaceutical medication. And I think it really does take a lot of work and a lot of you really have to go internally to say, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? I know that I've got all of these people out here telling me I should be doing this and I should be doing this. Drink more water, you'll get better. Eat these foods, you'll get better. Go for a nature walk, you'll get better. Take this particular pill, you'll get better. But you don't. So you have to really figure out, okay, who exactly am I? And let's figure that out. Everybody is going to be different. Everybody is different. So, like I said, what works for me may not necessarily work for you, but I can tell you exactly what I've tried, and I can guide you using the same modalities, using a map that's going to work for you, and will not take you 8 years. It took me, from time I was diagnosed, it took me about 6 or 7 years before I was finally feeling better. Okay? All right, let me go back to my notes. I have a note here. Sometimes life has to slap you in the face so you can figure it all out. And that's truly what it did for me. I literally woke up one morning just feeling so bad. And it was like a slap in the face saying, just wake up and get a grip, get up and go and find out what it is that's going to work for you, because everything that you've been trying up to this point is not working. So we really do have to figure out what is going to work for us. So my question to you is, how are you going to figure out your situation? What exactly are you going to do? Because I know you don't want to be lying around in bed all the time in pain. You have to, you want to be able to get up and go out and, not have to tell your friends every Friday night, I'm sorry, I can't go out because I'm not feeling too good. And after a while, those friends are going to start to drift away, because they're going to stop calling, because every time they call, all they're going to hear is, I can't, because, I'm just not feeling good. So what are you going to do to turn your situation around, right? Tell me in the chat, are you at the point where, I'm tired of feeling sick and tired and I want things to change? One is saying, I would be super interested in natural health. That's good to hear, because that's exactly what I do. I work with a lot of natural remedies, ranging from herbalism to essential oils and food. I mentioned that food is a huge part of getting better. Huge role, because what you put into your mouth can either be a slow form of poison, or it can be lead to your complete health. So and that is the one thing that you have immediate control over, is the what goes into your mouth, right? Because they say you are what you eat. Whatever goes in gets digested and becomes you, right? Something in that. All right, so I was listening recently to a message by a guy named Les Brown. I'm sure you've heard about him. And he was talking about buried treasure and how not to become buried treasure. And I'm going to tie this all in a minute. And there's a guy who he was referencing named Howard Thurman. And I highly recommend that you go and look up a couple books by Howard Thurman. There's a saying that there would not be a Martin Luther King if it was not for Howard Thurman. So go and listen, go and look up a book by Howard Thurman. And it says, imagine that you're on your deathbed, and standing around you are the ghosts of all of your dreams, all of your ideas, all of your talents, all of your abilities, all of your gifts, right? All of these used. They're all there. You never did anything with them. But they're all standing there and they're staring at you because they're angry because you never used them, and they're stating how now they're going to die without you having utilized all of your gifts, all of your abilities. You haven't, met your goals. You didn't fulfill any of your dreams. That's exactly how I started to feel. And that is one of the things that propelled me forward to getting better as well. Because just think about it. A lot of you out there, you may be the next Picasso. You may have all of this art hidden inside of you. You may have the next great song, the next great novel hidden inside of you, but because life smacked you around a little bit, it gave you a diagnosis, it caused you to lose your job, all of this, then you just kind of sat back and you just let life deal its blows to you rather than saying enough is enough, right? Instead of using the illness that you've been given as a springboard. So the saying is that, well, let me ask you, maybe what is the wealthiest place on the planet? Not in Florida, not in Ohio, not wherever. What's the wealthiest place on the planet? Does anybody know? Post it in the chat if you know where the wealthiest place is on the planet. The wealthiest place is the graveyard. Any graveyard, it doesn't matter. Because the graveyard is filled with people who have died with their dreams still inside of them. People who have died not having written that song that they were supposed to sing, not having written that book of poetry that they were supposed to do, not having written that novel, not having painted that great masterpiece. There's a lot. The graveyard is filled with unfulfilled dreams and goals and all of the abilities that have gone unfulfilled, right? The wealthiest place on the planet is the graveyard. And I know that it's hard, especially when you're sick, to say, okay, yes, I still have these dreams and I really want to see them fulfilled. I know that it's hard to do that whenever you're sick, because it was one of the hardest things to drag myself out of bed every single morning, to get my kids up, to get them ready for school, to get them to school, and to come back home and say, I know I'm not at work because I'm sick and I have all of these goals that I want to fulfill, but I just can't do it. It was the hardest thing for me to do that, but I had to push myself to get to that point. And one of the things that actually propelled me was, this whole fact that I had this diagnosis. So there's got to be other people out there who are in the same boat. So how can I help? And I was doing all of this research So I started to share by starting a Facebook page on Facebook, my Facebook page called Beating Lupus the Natural Way. And I realized that there were a lot of people out there who were looking for more natural ways to heal their bodies. And that was one of the first things that I did. And since then, I've done a lot of research and I've gotten certified. I've Well, about a year ago now, I became a master herbalist, and I've become a professional counselor, and I'm an art therapy life coach. So I started doing because prior to this, I was also an artist, and I was doing a lot of art therapy in different locations. So I said, well, there's got to be a way for me to utilize all of these gifts. So that's what I started to do. So I'm here to tell you that I've done a lot of work over the last 8 years to be able to say to you, yes, I know it can be done. And the person that you're seeing sitting in front of you right now, this is a live stream. This is not, you can call me, afterwards, you can send me a direct message and say, look, um, can you send me a picture? Because I really don't believe that's what you actually look like, considering that, you were saying how awful your skin was when you were diagnosed. I've had people actually call me up after a live stream and say, was that really you? Yes, this is really me. I've done a lot of work, and I've I look a whole lot better now than I did, years ago when I was first diagnosed and I was going through, because the lupus manifested on my skin, and it also manifested with inside my body because I had this systemic kind, which basically affected my entire body. Right? But this is a live stream, and you can see the difference now. So if you're interested, I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about exactly, what I do and the different programs that I run, so you can have an idea of how I can help you if that is where you are at today. So how do you use your sickness as a springboard? Personal growth. That is one of the things that I've been teaching, and I have to actually use it. I've used it on myself as well. Personal development. I took the time that I was ill to do a lot of research, and even when I was sick, I started to try to reach out to other people and say, this can help. This is what I've been doing. These are the kind of results that I've been achieving. Maybe you want to try it and see if that works for you. If it doesn't, that's okay. We'll try something else, right? But I was doing a lot of personal growth and development. So I know how to harness the tragedy of chronic illness and to use it to get myself better, basically. So when illness strikes, it can feel like life has literally been kind of ripped apart. I can completely relate to where you are if that's how you're feeling. But your life can be put back together. And it does take a little bit of work, and it does take a little bit of support, but it can be done. So, your identity might have been kind of gutted. Your career might have been ripped from under you. Your relationships have been suffering. Your goals have been suffering. The dreams that you had set for yourself, you might have had to put them on the back burner, but they don't have to be there forever, right? Because your sense of who you are right now might be altered, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a point where you have to give up, because this is the perfect time for you to be able to reinvent yourself. Harness whatever tragedy you're going through, whether it's illness or loss of job or, some other chaotic moment that you might be having. Use it, harness the energy from that, and use it to propel you forward. With the right kind of tools, with the right kind of support, with the right kind of awareness, this can be a great opportunity for you. There's a quote I want to read to you. It's by Ken Wilber, and it's from his book called No Boundaries. And it says, suffering smashes to pieces the complacency of our normal fictions about reality, and it forces us to become alive in the special sense, to see carefully, to feel deeply, to touch ourselves and our world in ways that we've avoided before. So this is a perfect time for you to just kind of, say exactly who am I? I am not my illness. That's for sure. I am not the job that I just lost. That's for sure. But it's a time for you to be able to reinvent yourself, right? So make your move before you're ready. I didn't wait for me to get better before I started my lupus page. I didn't wait for me to get better before I started to research herbalism and get myself certified. I didn't wait to get better before I started working with essential oils. I was doing all of this experimentation and working with all of these different modalities. And these are the different things that kind of propelled me forward into the healthy person that you see living in is sitting in front of you. So don't wait to get better before you think that you can help somebody else. Somebody out there needs to know that you are going to work on yourself and get yourself better because somebody is watching you. Who's watching you? You wouldn't know that, but your kids are, for sure, are watching you. There are family members out there who are watching you. Your friends, they're watching you, but there are those people out there who are watching to see, are you going to sit back and just let life deal this blow to you, or are you going to, step up to the plate, really? All right. I had to take a chance on my own health because the doctors weren't doing it. They basically had said, okay, by age 45, this is what's going to happen. And I haven't told you my age today. I'm 51 years old, so that was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, yes, my math is correct. And one of the things I did when I hit age 45 and my birthday came around, I started to do not a fashion show, but I started to do like a little photo shoot to capture every year from 45 and onwards. And every year I've been doing a little photo shoot on my birthday as a representation. Doctors said that by this age I wasn't going to be here, and I showed them. So every year that is what I do. I don't know if a doctor has told you that illness is going to claim your life at a certain age or not. Don't claim it. That is the one thing that I refuse to do, was to claim a time. Only God knows when I'm going to die, right? He knows, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to live my life as if I have the rest of my life. I do enjoy my life, but I'm not going to let anyone else tell me that there's this particular time you're not going to be here. So I capture every single year, and I just did, my birthday's in May, but I actually did my 51st birthday shoot just a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing. It really was so much fun. So whatever it is that you need to do to kind of, elevate yourself a little bit every single year, find something and do that, and show the doctors who are speaking negatively over your life, because they're, like I said, they're practicing medicine, right? And they basically really only treat your symptoms. You want to find out what exactly is happening. I don't want to treat the symptoms. I want to heal the body. So find out what it is that caused you to become ill in the first place. And that can be the hardest thing, because you really have to go deep. And sometimes it's not something, physical. Sometimes it could have been an emotional thing. Maybe it was something that someone said to you, and over the years you held onto it, you held onto it, you held onto it, and then it just manifested as a disease in your body. Or maybe you've been eating a rotten diet. Maybe it's as blunt as that. And it's, you've had the signs saying you shouldn't be eating that. You eat something and it kind of cramps up your stomach, and you said, okay, it'll pass in a couple of days, and you eat the same thing. So maybe it's your diet that actually triggered the autoimmunity. Whatever it is, you have to find out what that is and treat that, heal that, and you will heal your body. It is said that all disease starts in the gut. Your gut and your brain are all connected. And that's another thing that a lot of doctors will not tell you. Whatever happens in your gut does affect up here. Whatever happens up here does affect your gut as well. So you have to find out what has happened to cause you to become sick, and don't put band-aids on all of the little symptoms that pop up, because all you're doing is just covering everything up and allowing everything to still fester on the inside. It is hard work. I did last year, I did a program called Soul Shift because I realized that I still had a couple of things that I needed to work on. And one of them was forgiveness. I had to forgive myself for a lot of things that I did to myself. I had to forgive people for a lot of things that they did to me. And that's a huge thing. We don't seem to realize that holding on to lack of forgiveness it festers in our body, and it creates illness in our body. So we really do have to work on forgiveness, forgiving ourselves and forgiving other people. And that is one of the things that I also talk about in one of the programs that I run as well. All right. Whew. You have a story to tell. You're going to have a story to tell after you've healed, but you still have a story to tell right now. And you're going to need a lot of help, because chances are that whatever it is that you've been doing hasn't been working. You're going to need the right tools. You're going to need the right support system. Having the right people around you does help, whether they be friends, whether they be family members, or even doctors. I mean, you can find a really good team of doctors who are going to set you on the right path and tell you, look, that diet that you're on right now, that is just not working for you. Here is a card to a nutritionist who I trust. Go and see this particular person, and they will help you to get on that road. I actually know a local herbalist who gets prescriptions written from doctors, and they get sent to her for a particular anti-inflammatory herbal blend. So doctors, there's a few doctors here who are open to that sort of thing, but a lot of them are not. They don't know anything about nutrition. They don't know anything about using natural remedies to heal the body. So you have to be proactive in that. All right. Right. So a few things. Let me just mention a few things that I worked with. I mentioned herbs and I mentioned essential oils as well. I also worked with sound therapy, music, art therapy, and decluttering. That may not sound like something that you would do in order to get better, but you'd be surprised at what a few good sessions of decluttering can actually do to your mind and your physical body. Because it is said that clutter, your outward environment is a reflection of what's going on internally. So if you tend to hold on to things, and I'm not necessarily talking about, it doesn't necessarily have to be like physical stuff. You can also have mental clutter. I call it mental chatter. A lot of stuff that just held on, and it gets manifested into a disease. But if it's a physical stuff, you have to ask yourself, well, why am I holding on to these things? There's a reason why people, become hoarders, because they either this stuff creates a safety net for them, but then you have to find out, well, why do I feel safe having all of this stuff? Because eventually the stuff kind of overwhelms you and starts to make you sick as well. So decluttering is part of a program that I teach, because it does help to bring you to complete health. Now, I know it's just one factor, but that is a huge factor. It really is. And having a spiritual life. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian. I am a Christian, but realizing that you have a connection to a higher power, right? Having a spiritual practice is a huge part of getting better. And the thing is, when people get diagnosed with a chronic illness, one of the things that tends to go out the window is their belief in God. And then they start to question, well, why me? Where were you when I was sick? Why did you allow this to happen to me? And these are some of the things that I actually asked whenever I got sick. It's like, I've been doing all of this stuff. I thought I was doing really well, and I was taking care of my body. I was eating correctly, but yet you slapped me with this, not just one, but a multitude of chronic illnesses, right? You know, why? What's I mean, you have a really sick sense of humor to think that I'm going to be able to handle all of this. And I'm not going to lie to you, I not really lost my faith, but I questioned God a lot. And I know a lot of people, when you're faced with that kind of, you know, that kind of situation, you tend to forget that God even exists. The one person that you really should be clinging to during this time. I call God's the ultimate healer. Yes, I say that, I utilize all of these different modalities, but I held on to God. I mean, held on to my faith. And that is one of the things that really brought me through. And, I know there are a lot of different people, a lot of different faiths who are part of my community. And I'm not saying that you have to believe in the God that I do. Um, but you do have to have some spiritual practice in order to be able to get through something or times as challenging as this is, right? So that is a part of the programs that I teach, because like I said, your health is three-part. Actually, your mind, body, spirit. You can heal your mind, but if you don't work on your physical body and your spiritual body, then you're kind of missing out. But if you work on your spiritual body and you don't take control of your physical body or your mind, you're still missing out. So you really do have to take into account that you are it's mind, body, and spirit. You have to work on all of those in order to get complete health. All right. So let me just glancing at some notes that I've written. So Howard Thurman once wrote, let me throw out another quote here. I love quotes. There is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide that you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, you'll spend your days on the end of strings that someone else pulls. So you have to bet on you. You have to bet on you. Otherwise, you're going to have, constantly doctors over here saying, take this medication or take this medication or take this. You have to start taking initiative for your own health. Start advocating for your own health. Okay? I had to learn over the years that I've been doing all of the research and getting trained. I had to learn all of this stuff, and I created a map that was going to work for me. And I call this my roadmap to multidimensional wellness. And that's one of the names of a program that I teach, right? Because there are lots of different modalities that I actually work with. So I had to learn to create a roadmap, not just, for that particular program. When I decided to start my own business, I had to create a roadmap for my business. So if you want to get from one place to another, let's say you want to get from Florida to Texas, you have to create a map. You have to look at that map and say, okay, I have to go to this spot, to that spot, to that spot, to that spot. And then, after a while, you know that you're in Texas, right? So you have to create that roadmap. You have to know how you're going to get there. You have to have the right tools and the right support system, the right team in order to guide you all the way to the complete health that you are looking for. So I mentioned one of the particular programs that I teach, which is the Roadmap to Multidimensional Wellness. That is a 12-week program. It's a very intense program, but it's not one that I'm going to desert you or leave you at the end of the 12 weeks. But I don't want to initially it was going to be like a 12-month program, but I figured that was going to take a little bit too long. So I have it as a 12-week program, very intense, getting you started, and then working with you even after that to get you on the road to health. And that particular program is $297, and it's a wealth of information. But if you're not quite ready to jump into that, maybe you say, maybe I just need to start working on my diet. Maybe that's where I need to start. There's a program called Lead Your Diet, which is a 14-day program, and that one is 97. And I really teach you about, anti-inflammatory foods, and I help you to design what your particular body type is and the foods that are going to be good for your particular body type. Because trust me, you could be eating something today that you've eaten all your life, and you thought that it was good for you, and it turns out that it's not. And I've been in that situation. So some things that I grew up eating turned out to not be good for my particular body. So I'm going to help to guide you. One of the things I'm doing right now is a vegan nutritionist course, and I'm actually like one test away from my certification. And I can tell you that I have a degree in psychology. I'm a professional counselor. I am an art therapy life coach. I have all of these certifications, and becoming a vegan nutritionist has been like the most challenging certification that I think I have taken up to this point. And for the master herbalist, that was about 6 years in the making. I became I got certified as an herbalist, but then I got certified as a master herbalist a few years after that. But I know that the food aspect is hard for a lot of people who are battling lupus or another type of autoimmunity. Food, like I said, is either your slow, source of poison, or it can be the one thing that triggers health in your body and leads you on to complete health. So that's my the Lead Your Diet is the one where I'm going to help you with really getting your food under control and using food to create optimum health in your body. And another program that I have is called Lighten Your Life, and that is the decluttering program. And it's a 14-day program. It has 12 modules in there where I go through and I really teach you what decluttering, how decluttering can really help your life, and how minimalism can really help to promote health, health within you, and the reasons why you might be holding on to things, how you can learn to release those things. And I also teach you a few, I bring other a few well-known minimalists into the program as well, and teach you a few things that they're also teaching. So the Lighten Your Life is the decluttering and minimalism course, and that one is $97. So but it's not, I said it's 14 days for one, 14 days for another, 12 weeks for one, but I'm not going to desert you at the end of that. You're going to be in a private Facebook group for each of these particular programs, and I'm going to be in there guiding you, teaching you. You're also going to have the support of all of the others who are members of the group, and there are also going to be lots of encouragement to ensure that you get to your destination. So even though the program might seem short, I'm not going to desert you at the end of this, and you're going to get a wealth of information in each of these programs. So if this sounds like something that you're going to be interested in, you can just simply send me a direct message. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm actually streaming to, I believe, 3 different platforms right now. So you can always send me a direct message, or you can send me an email. But this is the time to bet on you. I know that if you're watching me right now, chances are it's because you want more natural ways of healing. You've tried all of the pharmaceuticals and they've either made you sick or you haven't seen any results. So now is the time to really start to bet on you, start taking control of your health, start advocating for your health, because the bottom line is nobody else is going to do it for you. And come in a few months, even a year from now, I want to hear from you saying, guess what? all of these markers have gone down. I may not necessarily be completely out of the woods, but my blood work is so much better. My eating habits are so much better, and I feel so much better because I've decided to change my diet, or I am working with this particular tool. And I absolutely love the meditation that you posted in the group, or that you're doing with us. And I love that, sound therapy that you're doing with us, because that just made me feel so good in my body. And I know that these are the kind of responses that I'm going to be getting from you. I'll also teach you to make some of your own products, because one of the things that I did was I started to make lots of different herbal teas. I started to make different essential oil blends, and I make natural perfumes. I don't use any kind of artificial perfumes. All the perfumes I use are things that I've made myself. So I can teach you about, making more natural products, because a lot of the toxins that our bodies, have consumed, that you may not necessarily even know about, are from things that we use on a regular basis. Women, we use our makeup, but every time we put on makeup, you're literally putting between 200 and 400 chemicals into your skin. And your skin is the biggest organ, and whatever goes on your skin goes into your body. There are toxins all around us. So I'm going to be teaching you about all of that stuff and how to avoid it. And if you can't avoid it, because we walk around and the air itself is filled with toxins. But I'm going to be teaching you a lot about how to become healthy, even with everything that's going on, even with, the particular climate that we're living in. All right. I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to send me a direct message, send me an email, and I will get back to you. If you're interested in any of these programs, just simply send me a direct message, and I will go ahead and I will get you started. I truly appreciate all of you who have spent this time with me. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're on Facebook, I do have the page Beating Lupus the Natural Way. You can simply jump onto that page, like that page, and there's a wealth of information. There's a bunch of videos that are already on there, free for you to watch. If you're on YouTube, I thank you for watching. Just simply, you can also you can check out all of my YouTube videos, because I do a lot. I have spoken a lot about my journey with lupus and chronic illness, and I've shared a lot of different remedies on there. So there's a wealth of information in my YouTube videos as well. So you can just jump over there and check those out. I'm the same on YouTube. My name is Gina Wells Hulse on YouTube. On Instagram, it's the same name. But on Facebook, the page is called Beating Lupus the Natural Way, and you can also find my martial arts page, which is Kicking Lupus's ASS, using martial arts. So and either way, you're going to find me on some platform. So again, I thank you so much for being here, and I do hope that I've shared a little bit of information, and hopefully I've encouraged you a little bit to let you know that it's not the end of the world getting a chronic illness diagnosis, and there is hope. It is possible to heal your body. Right? Thank you again for being here, and reach out to me for any questions or comments, direct message or email. Thank you all so much.